This may sound scurrilous, but please hear me out. This is why Harvard and other elite private schools should be able to discriminate based on race. I say this because I think every private company, private individual should be able to discriminate on race. I think very few will do it negatively. Unless you've been asleep for the last 10 straight years, you know that African Americans are no longer discriminated against. Maybe a couple tiny pockets left in the South, but social, corporate, educational America, if anything, gives benefits to African American applicants. Corporations are replete with diversity, equity, and inclusion staffers, and all staffers are expected to have sensitivity trainings. And in the hiring process and the continuation process, corporations go out of their way to make sure African Americans are comfortable. They don't do that for white people. They're not saying, gee, is the white guy comfortable in this environment? For the last 30 years, companies and almost all society has been going out of its way to make sure that diversity is part of its mantra. Now, what about Asian Americans? And that's the subject of the Supreme Court's case in late 2022, because it does appear they have been discriminated against by elite institutions for admission. I will say, though it's unfair, because it's private, I think the right to be unfair should stay that way, because if the government starts to impose its idea of fairness, there's no way out. Right now, there is a way out. Institutions that treat groups unfairly should be shunned. Asian Americans in particular. I don't think there's a strong case for going to Harvard in the first place. If you're talented enough to get accepted, you're talented enough to be accepted across the river at MIT or down the road at Babson. If these students aren't parochial, as very few Harvard applicants are, they're willing to go almost anywhere, well, there's dozens of very good universities that will accept them. And they will thrive there probably more than they will in 4 years in Cambridge. Harvard and its students have become woke. That is not good for life. Students attending now have to fight the woke aspects of their dorm mates, of their teachers, and even of their administrators when they encounter them. That's a fight you don't have to have if you're accepted to MIT, if you're choosing to go to an academy that may not have quite the same status, but where you will end up learning more and carrying equally, if not better, job prospects. Now, I couldn't say that 20 years ago. The clout that Harvard and other Ivy Leagues carried up until, say, 2 decades ago was extreme, but it has lessened, especially in the sciences. Harvard will carry a social status for a long time. It might carry an employment status that helps the liberal arts major. I don't think it does anymore if you are a science major, because employers in the sciences have the rationality to look at productivity. They don't tend to have other quotas that they need to fill. If you're a strong student, you show that potential for goodness to your employer, you're going to get hired, even if you are at a lesser ranked college. I wish it would go even to the level of community college or no college at all. My company at Ivy Bound does not even care about your college. If an applicant doesn't list it, fine, and it has no bearing on who I have been evaluating. I give 2-week trials. People who perform well in 2 weeks and like it, they're offered the job. I'm Mark Greenstein. I hope this will be an eye-opener to many applicants who right now might be eyeing Ivy League universities, but could thrive elsewhere, and I think should.